Ladies and gentlemen, we are back yet again for another movie review in 2023. This is going to be Deon Taylor's Fear. I have here co-host Lucas. What's up, man?
What's going on? So we're here to talk about Fear, 2023 movie brought to you by an independent film studio. Which I can't remember off the top of my head the film studio. It's Hidden. It's Dion's own actually company.
Yeah,
Hidden
Hidden
Empire
Empire.
Film Group.
Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
So this is your wheelhouse, like literally talking about fear, and it's a horror film. So I was like, I have to do this with Lucas. So I'm excited to talk about it. But um, so Lucas, like going into this film, did you see the trailer before seeing this, or kind of what was your impressions going into the film before we even kind of go into it?
Okay, two things. I saw the trailer and I thought, this seemed interesting. It seemed like a play on the word fear, and I thought that that's where this was going to go. And second thought is I saw who the director was, and I said, I know exactly what I'm about to get into here.
Right.
So the trailer really heightened my expectations, and then the director took them right back down to normal. That's the
So
best way to put it.
so the interesting thing for me is that I looked at the cast and I was like, this is a well-versed cast. Like some that are
Hmm.
comedians, some that are have like serious franchise, some that are like, household names. It was really strange because it was so well versed. I was kind of like, I didn't know whether or not this was a parody. I didn't know whether or not this was just a straight horror. So going into it, like it was a pleasant surprise to know what it was, which is a straightforward horror, but they're trying to target, the certain dynamics of what fear really truly is.
Hmm.
Like there's some hidden elements about fear and how it affects all of us as a collective. One of the baselines of it, you got a group of friends, and your boy Joseph, if Tommy Egan from Power, he's the main person that is working on his second book. His second book is about fear, but he's got his wife, and they're going to the cabin trip. It's
Said it
his
right the first time. I'm
fiance.
about to say his
Yeah,
girlfriend. It's his
yeah, his
girlfriend.
girlfriend. Yeah,
They're not engaged yet
yeah,
in the movie.
correct.
Yeah.
But he's trying to do that. He's trying to figure out how to plan this out. He's got his friends there to help him out.
Hmm.
And they're all going to this cabin. Now, the cabin has its own backdrop, but the friends were going there just because they all wanted to get out of this COVID environment. COVID is actually something that's in the back fray of this, which is fascinating because his girlfriend has a huge fear of COVID, but then not just that, their relationships have been impacted because of COVID. So this is their first time all coming together. But
Yeah.
he is also focusing on something else, which is fear. Now, the way things go and start to move in interesting things, like I was kind of thrown off by because it kind of happened really suddenly and really quick. But I did
Hmm.
appreciate when they got down to the brass tacks of what everybody's fear was. I think it was when
Yeah.
they had a campfire and they were kind of like randomly like, let's go all talk about our fears and let's commit it to the
Mm.
sun. And I was like, I don't think I would ever do that, but whatever. But when I started hearing different people's fears, I was like, okay, those are real things.
Hmm.
Like all those
Hmm.
different things I can comprehend, I can understand. I think one of the girls, she was like, I've got this locket. Like if this locket ever falls off, like superstition wise, like this is the one consistent thing, So
Yeah.
all these little things I thought were very fascinating. Like there's a lot of good ideas here. But it's
Mm.
more so the execution of how they pay off. That's where I kind of lose treads here or there. But what was your
Mm.
process? What were some of the things you pulled from, I guess, the opening of this and kind of where it went?
From just the interview aspect at the beginning of the film, I kind of knew then what lane we were going to go into. Now, this production was shot during COVID,
Yep.
so I knew it would have COVID elements to it, and I did like the way they played with those elements. It's not like a lot of the pandemic films so far.
Right.
I did like the girlfriend's reaction to it when they were in the
Right.
car. That was a nice setup, but for me, the movie went downhill right at the campfire. At the campfire, it's almost a classic horror movie setup. to tell
Yeah.
you exactly what you're going to get and tell you exactly what's going to happen to each individual. I
Right.
would prefer to not see any of that and be shocked at incidents that happen with each of these actors. Instead, we're stuck with this film that it 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 just goes so far out in front of itself to make you think it's something different, and then it peels back and you're wondering, wow, some very questionable decisions were made with the way the film moved. I mean, you wanted more other characters, you wanted to see the fear build up in characters, and you didn't necessarily get to see that. So it's the execution of a great idea is what this movie suffers from, is that
Yeah.
execution.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting perspective because if exposition wasn't there, if that campfire discussion wasn't there, and then something started to attack everybody's
Mm-hmm.
fears organically, specifically the girlfriend. I think her storyline and even how she even acted throughout this, I was
Yeah.
kind of like drawn to her. Her and Ti's character were the two that I was kind of like, okay, like this is a gray area. Like it's like
Yeah.
they have real substantial fears, like some that people don't talk about, like Ti's. I'm not gonna bring it up here, but I was like, that's a real thing. That's one of my
Yeah.
fears. That's something that
Mm-hmm.
I have a fear of. And I was kind of like how they're using it and how they're using it against each other. I was kind of like, this is really intriguing. But because we knew it off rip, then
There you go.
you're
Mm-hmm.
backtraddling and then you're kind of glossing over one thing and then you're adding in a horrific element. Now,
Yeah.
I'll say I'll say this. As far as the horror element, I'm not a horror guy.
Mm.
So I I kind of low key was a little
You're easily
jittery.
scared. Is that what you're trying to
I was
say?
a little jittery. I'm not gonna lie. Like when stuff started happening, I was kind of like, oh, okay, what is going on? What is actually happening? And then when you see certain things crawling around
Uh-huh.
and contorting, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm freaked out. So I can see where this may work for some people that are like me, that aren't used to horrors. And I think maybe in an
And
open setting with other people, this could work. Or maybe if you're trying to look at it with your significant other at nighttime, maybe it could work. I think it's just the problem is that there are great ideas here. And I think there's some characters I really liked. And then there's some characters that kind of just feel throwaway. And I guess that's the trope of horror movies. You tell me, Lucas.
that is not the trope of horror movies. That is the trope of bad horror movies. I think you kind of pointed in the right direction here. This movie feels like a horror movie that should be marketed to horror fanatics. People absolutely love horror movies. And it seems like it is set up for a general audience who never watches horror movies. Because anyone who watches horror movies, there's not a horror element in this entire film. At no point in time did I feel like the heart racing, the gut punching, everything that makes great horror movies, or even good or mildly good horror movies. I never felt that throughout this entire film. It felt like a thriller attempting to masquerade as a horror film, but it necessarily wasn't the best of thrillers here. And as you said, the ideas are great. It's a lot of characters in this movie, and 70% of them weren't needed. And some of the things we get, some of the actions that we get from this friend group doesn't make sense. And the reason it doesn't make sense is because at the beginning of the film, when we pull up to this escape, this getaway that they're at, we see how grand this place is.
Right.
And that takes away from a lot of the things that happen with characters in it, because you're wondering, it's a lot of space here. Certain things shouldn't be threats the way that you want them to, or would perceive them to be threats. And that's part of the biggest issue with this film. It's like it should have been a smaller film. And that says a lot because this is an independent film and it is very small budget. But maybe if you pulled back a little more and focused a little more on the script and the cast, shrink this cast down to about 4 people, I think you could have got a much better film. But the film feels too big for its budget and too big for the story.
Yeah, and the thing is that there's another character played by Andrew. I'm sorry. Yeah,
King
no,
Batch. No,
yeah,
we're not gonna
King
call him
Bat.
by his real name here.
Yeah,
King
I've
Batch.
literally been calling him by his real name. Even when we did the interview, I called him by his real name. He probably was
Yeah,
offended.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but
yeah. No,
but
don't call him King
anyway, I thought that his character was very intriguing, but he was
Batch.
around other characters that I didn't care about, and they were making weird decisions where he was kind of like, okay, he's making a calculated decision here. Like, I
Yeah.
get where
Hmm.
he'd be an interesting character to follow. Even
Yeah.
Joseph and, his girlfriend, or even T.I., maybe add one other person to the mix, but that's it. Because there's one character, I legit, the first half, they were there, and then all of a sudden they're gone. And there's no explanation as to
I'll
what
give you a
happened to them.
question. I'll give you a question. Which character were you most disappointed in then?
Um, the person that had a fear of blood and their significant other. I didn't feel there's a need for either one of their characters at all in
Ah.
this.
See, I think and that's where I think that's where the difference comes from being a horror movie guy to someone who's not necessarily into horror movies, because you notice the outline that them characters really did seem pointless. My biggest disappointment was with Joseph
Mm.
in this entire film, and that's because his character has so many things that could be interesting with this character, and instead they went bargain basement with it. And Joseph is attempting to give a performance that is bigger than the character that he's playing. And it throws me off so much because at times I'm expecting more intrigue from this character and it never develops. I'm like, okay, maybe it's a more sinister thought process behind things. Maybe it's a more bigger thing where we get about his writing skills, all this other stuff.
Okay.
I
I can see
wanted
that.
more from this character and I never got it. And it led to me being extremely disappointed with the character. Not the performance, the character.
I can see that because in the second act, I realized something is weird here.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
there's a term, there's an alley oop that's being thrown,
yeah.
and there's nobody to dunk it. Literally, that's the best way
There
I
you
kind of
go.
put it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I kind of let that go, but in thinking about it, I see exactly what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot they could have done with him.
Yeah.
And they almost feel like maybe that was possibly a plan initially. I don't really know. But yeah, I can see where your point. I can see your
Yeah.
point there. I can
Yeah.
see your point.
This is the struggle of, unfortunately, I mean, Fear as a film kind of highlights the struggle so far that Deon has had in films. Like he's had big opportunities with very big casts in his films, and besides maybe 2019's Black and Blue
Mm-hmm.
with Tyrese and Kimberly Elise, I think I said it. Yeah, Kimberly. Besides that film, which really worked and was really entertaining, like we get Traffic. I'm sorry, uh, the Intruder with Dennis Quaid, which is bad, and then the Fatal one with Hilary Swank and Michael Ealy, which is one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like he's a director who clearly has talent, but
Yeah.
clearly would benefit from a better writer and possibly a more stringent or a different producer.
Mm.
And when he doesn't get those things, it struggles with what you get from the film. And that's where this film really fades at times, is that it's that struggle for Deon in this film.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I mean, biggest things that I can pull from it, I can see where certain elements that he wanted to kind of pull out from
Mm-hmm.
characters, to hone in on how to conquer fear with certain
Yeah.
things, how to understand what your real crippling fear is, because some people can't accept it or even know how to treat it. And then also like what happens when you have the wrong people negatively reinforcing it versus people trying
Yep.
to truly help. Those elements
Mm-hmm.
are there, and if you're
Yeah.
looking for them, I think you can get something and gain something back from it. It's just the execution of how they kind of backtread with certain ideas, and then certain
Yeah.
characters that are just not really utilized or or they're utilized the wrong way. I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing that kind of puts this to a certain kind of head, unfortunately. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I mean, the ideas are there great. That's the key part. The ideas are great. They're just not as well executed as you would have liked. The cast was too big. The story at times was too big for this budget. In the end, this is still an independent film.
Right.
I think that takes a lot for people to fully realize that, because I know people may have some issues with it, with the little bit of CGI work they do in it and a little bit of visual effects they do in it, which are not good. But this is an independent film.
Right.
And I viewed it as an independent film. So with me, independent films, the script is more important than anything else. And that's the biggest thing that suffers here.
Yeah. No, that's real. That's real. But yeah, what do we rate this, Lucas? I'll let you go first.
So let's see. I normally do what? I normally do out of 10. So let's do that, or have fun with and do both. So out of a possible 10, I gave Fear a 2 out of 10. Okay. If I gave it a letter grade, it would be a D. Again, the script is just, it hinders everything with this film. It's promising direction at times for this being an independent film. The performances of the important cast members are good, but the cast in whole is way too big here, and it suffers because it's way too big. So for that reason, that's why I gave it a 2 out of 10 or a D as a grade.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's a little different because I'm not a horror guy. So stuff scared me. CGI is negligible. Some CGI moments were just, but I ain't gonna lie, when you got somebody contorting and looking weird, like, and then you start to prey on people's fears, you do get me sometimes. Some stuff.
Don't worry about it. I know you pulled out your Bible. I already know you did.
I sure was rebuking and binding some stuff, but we're not gonna talk about me. I rest this at a 5 out of 10. So I think maybe like a C- or C. It would be something that I would watch with maybe like a group of people, or maybe I wouldn't watch with my wife because I need to have her sleep at night. But maybe somebody else may feel the same that way as me, and I think you might get something out of it. If you're looking for something there, I think you can find it. But it's just the execution, unfortunately, that you have to take into consideration with this one. Yeah. So that's what we have with Fear. I am jumbling all over the place because my camera is tripping out. I apologize for that, everybody that's watching this right now. But yeah, you guys, we got a lot more coverage coming. We've got reviews coming, and you don't want to miss it because we also did do some interviews with the cast. So I want you guys to go and check that out. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the post notification button, and subscribe, please. And make sure you follow our Patreon, right, Lucas? Patreon? Yeah. Did I miss anything?
Everything. Like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think about it when you get a chance to see it. This movie drops January, I want to say 27th in theaters. Opening night is the 26th, of course. So check it out. Let us know what you think. Comment below on our review. If you like it, hate it, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, subscribe. Check out our review for Last of Us that's currently going. Check out our review for multiple animes that Sam is doing. Check out even the live stream review of The Last of Us on every Monday. Check out everything we got. There's a lot of content coming. And peace, people. There you go.
Hey, we did it. Good teamwork, Lucas.
Filing out the top of I can see skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline. Ain't